Hey, what's up? Welcome back, subscribers. It's your girl Sab here with another episode of Suffering of Silence. It's the month of October, okay? And for anyone who knows, or at least pays attention to some of the content that I share, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And anyone who's listened to my podcast knows that I created this podcast. It was curated and formed from experiences that I had with domestic violence, and not just because of the relationship that I was in and whatnot. Like, I mean, obviously that was a big factor into it, but obviously as well, I want to talk about even some of the experiences I had as a kid, or the things that I've witnessed as far as domestic violence goes. But I will be super mindful and respectful of the way I share those stories and experiences as well. I'll be mindful to the individuals who suffered through those situations. So for me personally, I wanted to take some time to really give you guys some more insight and details into some of the things that I've been through. So I think it's obvious at this point, like a lot of people know about like my experience as I hate to even call myself like a victim of domestic violence, like because victims sometimes can sound almost like it doesn't feel like it's definitely not a term of endearment. Like it doesn't make me feel more powerful after having gone through those situations. So I don't know. I just like to call myself someone who's experienced. I just like to say that I've experienced those things, and I've experienced situations that would be considered domestic violence situations. And I really wanted to go in depth a little bit this month and talk about, very specific situations. And I feel like, yeah, I'm a yapper, but I don't always necessarily tell a story, or at least I don't really stick to a story. And I want to share more stories and maybe telltale signs of domestic violence. So I want to really make sure that I also offer resources to those individuals who might be experiencing these situations, or also even offer you guys like not just resources, but just ways to help cope with it, because I know as someone who's been through it myself, like I know it's not as easy as just like, oh, getting yourself together, getting your shit together and leaving. Like it's never that easy. Like that's the hardest part. That's literally the most dangerous time. Like it's a fact out there that leaving a domestic violence situation is far more dangerous than staying. And that sounds crazy. That sounds literally insane to think and to know that fact. I just want to make sure everyone knows that like help is always available. It's available 24/7. You don't even have to call, but there is a 1-800 number if you feel like you are able to, and you're in a safe spot and you're in a safe place where you can make the call. You can call 800-799-7233 if you need assistance in a domestic violence situation. And keep in mind that domestic violence is not just a partner, a romantic partner. Domestic violence is literally like someone you are cohabitating with. Like it could be a roommate, it could be a friend, it could be your parents, it could be your sister, it could be someone that you literally cohabitate with. Doesn't have to be a romantic partner. But obviously, more commonly, it is typically a romantic partner situation, or families, like in a family. Like, I mean, I come from a family that where I experienced a lot of domestic violence, and I witnessed a lot of domestic violence in my household. There are different languages that this helpline is able to assist in, but you can also text the word begin to 88788. That is B as in boy, E as in Edward, G as in girl, I as in igloo, N as in Nancy, to 88788 if you don't feel safe in calling. There is also like a chat feature, and I'll make sure to link this site to the show notes so you guys have the resources if you need assistance in domestic violence and you just need someone to talk to. I know it's not easy to leave, you know, and I've actually chatted and texted this hotline before myself personally, when I couldn't even remember which time it was, and I felt like I needed to do it. But I know I did do it a couple of times, but you know, it's no shame in having to use these resources. I've used local resources as well in my city. There's basically like safe houses for women who have experienced domestic violence situations and they need to get, you know, you can't count how many times someone will decide to leave but still come back. Okay, like I was in situations where, you know, I've had to use those resources that are local to me, these safe houses where, you know, I could use as shelter, but I was always so ashamed to go there and actually ask for assistance and ask for help. So I never personally like utilized that tool as a way to find shelter when I needed it. There were many times in which like I actually slept in my car in random parking lots or random streets in like, I mean, obviously I was smart enough to like choose different neighborhoods that weren't, you know, I didn't go to like unsafe neighborhoods to sleep in my car. I also didn't go to neighborhoods where I felt like the police would be called on me for sleeping in my car. But yeah, there were a lot of situations where that occurred. So yeah, just make sure that you know the resources that you have in your local areas. It never hurts to have those things on file, and if you can save it as an alias in your phone, do that. But the website is www.thehotline.org. That is the National Domestic Violence Hotline, so I want to make sure that everyone understands that you have 24/7, 365 support there. They can also give you the resources local to you when you do reach out to them. But please, please, please try to find local resources close to you because you want to know those situations when things happen. So I wanted to take some time to talk about a little bit more about my experiences. I don't know. I mean, this can be a little emotional for me still, and I could very well, I might cry, who knows, but I wanted to share my experiences a little bit more in depth because I don't think I really have talked a lot about it, because there were a lot of situations, so many stories that I could tell, but I want to start at the beginning, I guess, just to kind of keep things on track. One of the first situations that had occurred, honestly, like the timeline is a little blurry for me because during that time I was just so traumatized. Like honestly, I probably still have like brain fog from these situations that I was in. But one of the first situations that I experienced with this individual, with my abuser, where I should have walked away, and I know I should have walked away as I look back. Of course, like hindsight is 2020, we know. Now, we started dating in like 2017, just before my dad passed away in May of 2017. We were probably together for like a month, maybe dating for like 2 months. By the time my dad passed, I get so fearful that like if a guy wants to marry you, he's gonna show that he's gonna do those things, and it's like, but also like there is such a thing called love bombing, and that's what terrifies me more than anything, right? Like, because I've been love bombed by this person and a lot of people in the past, but especially my abuser, right? And he would love bomb me constantly and kind of like say how, like, he would always tell me like, you know, you're the last person, you're the only person that I want to be with because after you, like, there's no one else. Like, he would just basically he was a local artist, rapper, And he's like, after our relationship, like, I just can't be with anyone else because you're literally it for me. Like, I just know that if I ever date anyone ever again, like, it's just not going to be as genuine as our relationship. And like, because they're only going to want me for the fame and fortune and da 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 da. Oh my God, I was such a stupid fucking 20 something year old. Such an idiot I was to believe all this. Now that I think about it. Okay, and domestic violence is no joking fucking matter whatsoever. It's just this is how I get through my trauma, okay? I'm so sorry. I really hope it doesn't offend anyone. So yeah. So he would say these things to me and I would be like so naive to like believe that. And he would always say things like how, like, oh, you're gonna have my babies, like da 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 da, the usual shit. And I would believe him. I would think that that was so fucking amazing. Like, because I've never been, like, no one's ever said those things to me before. Like, I've been in, obviously at that point, like, I had been in other serious relationships, but it had never been to the point where, like, we were actually talking about, like, marriage, kids, da da da, because I was still very fucking young, and also that wasn't, like, necessarily that wasn't like the most ideal thing that I envisioned my life to be. Like, obviously I want marriage and I want kids in the future, but like, to believe that that was something that was possible to have like right now in that moment at that age, it wasn't on my mind. It just wasn't a priority to me, at least. And like, so obviously, like, things seemed to move fast. Like, at the start of this relationship, even when we were just dating, I wasn't even looking for anything super serious. Like, I was actually dating other people at the time, and like, he was just kind of someone that showed some consistency as far as like communication goes, and like coming to see me. I mean, there were times where he was late for things and I was just like, whatever, I get it, like, shit happens. But I mean, that should have been a red flag back then, but I was also just, I never go into things thinking like I'm gonna take it serious, because dating for me is never a priority in my life. So, and especially at that time, because like I said, if you listen to my last episode, I was literally living my life, like enjoying it with my friends. We were in like creative spaces that we were just trying to get our shit together and like make a name for ourselves out here, like show like our creativity and like the things that we love to do and express ourselves through our art. And that was what my main focus was. And I was just like, maybe I'll just try to dip my feet back in the dating pool just to kind of understand what I want and don't want and what I like and don't like. And honestly, he wasn't even the person that I was most interested in and wanted to actually, be serious with. It just so happened that like the one person I actually wanted to be with was like a long distance. So my abuser wasn't even like my first choice. But it's easier to kind of see actions when someone lives in the same fucking state as you. And I remember when I would like I'm normally not someone who dates multiple people at once, but in that time, I just knew that I needed to kind of explore my options because I didn't want to limit myself, because I had just gotten out of a relationship before that, maybe 4 or 5 months before that, and it was a really bad end to it. That person ended up becoming my stalker, and still is my stalker to this day. So that was a little traumatizing in itself, but so like I was just like, I'm just enjoying myself. I really don't feel like taking anything serious. Like, I just want to enjoy my life and maybe figuring out what I want and don't want in a partner. But yeah, so ultimately I ended up choosing my abuser. And I think I even had a lot of hesitation in that, because I had this feeling of like, I don't know, I think we had like a situation, like we had a situation where like things just went a little too far. Like, it felt too intimate for me. And as you may know, if you've listened to my previous episodes, I am a fearful avoidant. So when things feel a little too intimate for me, like I start to pull back because I start to get anxious and I'm like, I'm not ready to open my heart. Or I keep telling myself that, right? So like I was getting very anxious, so I literally told him like, this is too much for me. Like I said I didn't want anything serious, like this is just too much. So I need to take a step back, right? And he was very like kind about it. He made it seem like, yeah, no, it's cool, I get it, like I know you kind of told me that you didn't really want to take anything too fast and too serious right now. And he's like I remember him saying like, you're still like the only person for me, like you're the only person I want to be with, you're the only person I want to be serious with, so whenever you're ready, like let's do this. And I'm like, oh my God, he's being literally the sweetest guy ever. He's being so understanding. And I was like, okay, like I just need to take a step back. So I literally didn't talk to him for like a week or two. And I just took some time to myself to like think about whether or not this was something I actually wanted. And I'm like, yo, like this guy seems like the perfect guy because he's being understanding and he's like, he's not trying to rush me. He's not trying to force me into anything. And, I thought that those were great characteristics or great traits. And like, I obviously, so I didn't really know him from, like, I didn't know him personally, but I knew him from like around because I actually, coincidentally, not to like backtrack, but like I actually went to one of his performances like very early on when we were like 18. But I didn't go specifically for him because his producer or friend or whatever, his group, whatever the fuck it was, he was friends with a friend of mine from high school who was performing that night. So I went to the show with my best friend and just to support because he like sent it to me and he was like, hey, come out support. I was like, yeah, what's up? Like, I'll totally do that because we kind of like this friend, like we kind of were like kind of trauma bonded in some way. Because we were kind of locked in for a pretty crazy reason. But ultimately, like, I was like, all right, yeah, I'll show up and support and whatever. And it turns out like my abuser was also performing at that event and they were friends and I didn't even know. Like honestly, I would not have even known unless he had said something until we like started dating. But obviously like I recognized his name and like it became familiar. So I asked actually one of my close friends at the time. I was like, hey Chris, like you know this guy, da da da, and he's like, oh yeah, that he's cool, like so and so, and he's just like, he's like, yeah, but I heard he's been through some things like recently with his ex, and like he's always telling me about how he's been going through all this and that, and like how they just be getting into it and it's just all toxic and shit. And he's like, but yeah, he seems like a good guy. It's just his girl is toxic or some shit. I don't know. His ex was toxic or something. So I was just like, oh, okay. Well, we know how toxic exes can be and da da da. I was like, all right, cool. If my guy says this is cool, like he's a cool guy, then I'm like, all right, maybe I'll give him a chance. But my friend Chris did tell me like he doesn't know him like that. He just knows him, but not that well. So we have this conversation and like obviously I start dating this guy and like so I'm like, all right, like y'all gotta help me lock this down. Like I don't know what choice I need to make. Either I just need to cut them all off and just be done, or I need to make a choice here because I'm like, I'm taking this week off to myself and I'm like, this guy seems like he seems like a decent person. And little did I know, like him saying those things to me, like, oh, you're the only one for me, like you're the only one I want to be with, you're the only one I have eyes for, like those little love bombing moments, like that's what it was. Like I didn't realize that was what it was. Like instead of just being like, like I get it, like you want to still show and express your desire for someone, but there were just small things that added up to love bombing, that added up to him trying to persuade me into choosing him, right? Like, I mean, I know I could have very well, as a fucking grown ass adult, walked away and just said, nah, fuck that. Like, I honestly don't actually feel that deeply for him. And I feel like I almost felt some sort of pity in some way. And I think also when it comes to certain situations as women in society, we can't just simply there's so much stigma around us being intimately involved with someone and not like making it a serious relationship. Like, women can't just fucking hook up with anyone that they want without judgment, right? Like, you'll be considered a hoe. And I was like, maybe I'll just give him a chance, because worst case is like I could just break it off and be done, and so I was like, maybe I should take it more serious and cut off everyone else. And I kind of didn't really handle that too well either. So after like taking some time to myself and really thinking about things, I don't know if I texted him first or if he texted me, but we reconnected, and we were like, and I was just like, I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, maybe like we could do this, like we can actually give it a chance and like see where things go. And so we started making things more official, and like, I'm also someone who doesn't typically post my relationships online. And with him, like, that was totally new. I never would do that in the past. Like, I was in other relationships before that, and like for like I was with those people for like a long time. And I probably like my boyfriend before that, like I was probably with him for like 2 years, and you probably saw me post him maybe once ever in the 2 years of me being with him. And that's just because like I like my privacy, and I like I just kind of, I don't know, I just like not posting about it, because I'm just not that affectionate of a person. But I get it. Like, I think I might have changed in that way. Maybe not. I don't know. I think even in my last relationship, no one even knew that we were together, because I never actually posted him, and we were together for almost a year. But yeah, side note. Wow, I get so off topic so quickly. But yeah, so in this relationship with my abuser, he was all about like posting me and like showing off our relationship, and I wasn't used to those types of things. So he would make me like post things on my story or like post things on my page about us, cuz he would do the same. And he's like, "Well, you got to do it too." And I'm like, okay." And I guess one of the guys that I was kind of dating at the time, like we kind of drifted apart. The distance thing, I didn't really understand where we were standing. And because like I kind of decided to make things more official with my abuser, I didn't really say anything about like, hey, like I'm dating someone else, because I didn't feel like that was justified, because I thought we were just friends. So basically what ends up happening is like, we're going steady. I think there was actually a time where he brought me like insomnia cookies, and like I was actually waiting for him to come over. Like I was like waiting up for him, and he was so late. He was like 3-4 hours late, and I didn't even trip or spaz about it, when I should have, because being 3 to 4 hours late is not fucking cool, bro. And that should have just shown to me right there, like I wasn't a priority in his life. But at the time, I didn't really completely understand my own value, and I was also like, I'm a busy person. Like, I got shit to do too. Like, I was working a lot at the time, and I was also trying to like kick things off with my friends in a more creative space. I don't think he's ever hung out with me and my friends. Like, we've never spent time together as a couple. But after a while, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But yeah, basically, there were some telltale signs in which like I should have known he was just not. He just wasn't. I just shouldn't have gone as far as I did. So I actually had like a housewarming party. It was like a later housewarming party, but also like a congratulations, I got a new position, celebration and goodbye to some of my coworkers and stuff. So I invited a few of my coworkers and all of my friends, and like my friends came over, and then I obviously invited him, and like we were just having like a cute little get together at my crib, and like just eating, drinking, whatever. And everyone kind of like brought snacks and food and whatever. So it was cool. He showed up really late for that, and I think he had to work anyways, but he still showed up even later than I expected, which is fine. I mean, like, is it though? um that that should have just showed me that like he didn't really consider it a priority. And also like when I would invite him to like come and hang out with me and my friends, because I'm like, yo, like we're on some like we're over here brainstorming like our next ideas, like what we're trying to do next and da 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 da, like, and because he's an artist, like I thought he would want to be around that type of stuff. And I'm like, wouldn't you want to network a little bit more, get to know my friends, and like, kind of, we're not just on some bullshit. Like, we're not just hanging out to hang out. Like, we're literally hanging out to talk about ideas and be creative. And I'm like, wouldn't you want to be around that? Like, I'm like, also, like, I want you to meet my friends, and like, I want you to, kind of see if you can build some type of bond with my friends, especially with them being guys. Like, I want you to be comfortable with that. And um, I remember this one time he like refused to do that. He refused to come, and then like I think we were going out to like play pool or something. And then he didn't want to go, and I was like, "All right, cool, not a big deal." And then there was another time in which like we were just hanging out at my house, and coincidentally, we went to like the gas station to like grab some shit, and he shows up there. And I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" Like I I was like, "Is that him?" I was like, "Is that really him?" Because I didn't recognize him. And like I was like, oh shit, that's him. And I was like, hey, what's up? Like, oh my god, this is so crazy. Like that we're running into each other. Like, we're about to go back to my crib. Like, if you want to go hang out with us, like we're about to just chill, drink, talk creative shit, and just like talk about the next shoot and start putting some bits together and like some shit that we're gonna recreate on the sewing machine. Da 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 da. So he's like, I'm trying to remember if that was, yeah, I think he did come through. So that was cool. But going back to like my housewarming party thing, so yeah, like when he was there though, he was kind of, I know like they're not really people that he knows or like hangs out with. They're not his friends, you know what I mean? He knows some of my friends, but he doesn't really hang out with any of them. And like, so I understand like how you would feel sort of out of place, but my friends and my coworkers don't know each other. They got along. They had conversation. They were friends. They were like, they were being friendly to each other. And like, everyone was meshing well, but he would sit in my room and just like lay on the bed, and like he wasn't like interacting with my friends. And I feel like that was kind of like a sign too, like, that's kind of weird. Like, I probably should have caught on to that sooner than later. And it just made me feel awkward because it's like I have to accommodate all of my guests, including my boyfriend, but you're not really making that easy for me. But whatever. Um, those were just some things that I think about now. And even to think back on one of the first really toxic times in our relationship, like one of the first toxic arguments, um, I think some of that had happened when he would say things like he's going to the studio or like he's going to hang out with his friends. And one of his friends is like, so he would plant certain things in my brain that would get me like worked up, right? He had a couple of women that were friends of his, one of which like she's very sexually liberated and whatever, whatever. Like, I don't judge her for that, but she is kind of known for, like, she makes herself well known that she's very sexually liberated, and that's perfectly okay. My only thing was just the fact that he was disrespectful in his friendship with her, and he would say things like, how like he would share sexual experiences that he's had, not necessarily with her directly, but with her sister or like whatever the situation was. But basically, he would plant certain things in my brain that would make me suspicious of his friendship with her. And it had nothing to do with her. Not that I have any beef with her whatsoever. It's just more of like she. I would understand, like in her point of view, like she wouldn't want to come to me and tell me what was going on because, I mean, her loyalty is to him. Like, I'm not friends with her. I don't talk to her. I don't know her. But at the same time, as a woman, maybe there was some questionable shit that should have been said. But it's all good. I don't hold it against anybody because I'm the dumbass who stayed with him. But basically, he just would call her all types of shit. Like, basically, he would call her a hoe, and how she'll just, I can't even explain it. But basically, he would make it seem like she just wants to fuck him and da 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 da. So then why would you want to hang out with someone like that? Why would you want to be friends with someone who just wants to fuck you? That makes no sense to me. Anyways, especially when you're in a fucking committed relationship, or you claim to be committed in this relationship. And so that was one of the friends. And then another friend, he would kind of call her like his cousin. And actually, she was someone that we both knew. And actually, I've known her for much longer, and we were actually friends like back in middle school type shit. And he would say things about her, like how he would think, like, he's like, she just wants to fuck me, she wants to be with me, da 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 da, I'm pretty sure she likes me, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, like, you're planting these things in my brain, and you're making me think like I need to be insecure about your friendships with them. So it would make me question, like, why would you want to hang out with her as often as you do if you feel like she likes you, or if you feel like there's more than just a friendship between you guys, whether it's reciprocated or not on your end. It just, I mean, logically, I knew that was the fucking thing. I was thinking that. I was like, I know that's a fucking smart thing. But then in my fucking stupid little brain, I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry about it because he says he doesn't feel that way about them. All to say that basically he was making these things up. I mean, who knows? I don't know how these women felt about him, and that doesn't even matter. It's just the simple fact that he was gaslighting me to believe that they felt that way about him and he wasn't reciprocating. When in all honesty, he was just fucking anything that was getting thrown in his direction. So it really didn't fucking matter. And also, like, it's kind of just weird to me, like, why would I get it, like, when you are a certain caliber of fame, it comes with, like, girls lusting over your man just comes with the territory. So I'm not stupid or blinded to that, but even before him, like, I dated an artist, not a rapper, but I dated an artist, and he didn't have hoes like coming out of nowhere, like all up on his, but also, I guess, as a rapper, like, that comes with the territory. But it wouldn't make me feel insecure if you just made me if you actually securely set the boundaries and the foundation with me in our relationship, and we're clear about it, So he would make me feel uncomfortable in situations like that because he would say those types of things, and I just went along with it. Like, I was so stupid. And so there were times where he would go and hang out with one of these women that I'm referring to, and there was a time where I had to. So at this point in my life, like, I was working a lot and I was traveling because of work. So I'd spend a few days a month, maybe to add up like an entire week a month, in Chicago. So it was like a Saturday that I had to be down in Chicago for work, and I had to be up like before the sun even rise. So we had gotten into an argument because I'm like, yo, like, you should be, it's your day, it's your night off from work, and I want to spend time with you because I won't be able to see you this weekend because I'm gonna be fucking gone for work. Like, I have to travel for work, and by the time I get back, you're gonna be working, or our schedules just aren't gonna coordinate, and like, this is the only time we have time together. So can we just like make the most of this? And he's just like, no, like, I'm just gonna be like, he was making it seem like I was being dramatic for asking for his time when we both could make it work in this moment. I get it, you don't always want to be with your significant other, But I feel like take advantage of the time that we do have when our schedules do coordinate. That's all I'm saying. Because I've always been a person who doesn't really have a lot of time, and when I make time for people, like I kind of, maybe that's my problem, is I feel entitled when I do have time. I feel like it should be given to, like, when we have time for each other, like, it should just be given to each other. But that's just because I prioritize my partners in that way, or at least I try to, and I would hope the same for them, like that they would reciprocate that. So basically, we got into it. I honestly don't even remember what we really argued about, but it got to the point where, like, I was being really toxic, and I was just kind of like, I think I, like, even jumped on his back, and I was like, I was just, like, hugging him. I'm like, can you just, I'm coming down to a softer level, and I'm, like, basically pleading with you, like, hey, like, I'm really asking you for your fucking time right now. Like, I'm begging you for your time because I'm not going to see you, and I want to spend my time with you right now before I don't have the time to see you. I'm like, I'm literally sitting here begging for your time, and, like, I feel like I shouldn't even have to do that if I'm a priority in your life. But basically, we got into a really bad argument. He turned his phone off the whole fucking night, and I knew where he was going to be, and I'm like, my insecurities were going through the fucking roof. Like, I was literally, like, spiraling out of control. I'm like, I'm blowing his shit up. But basically, I find out, like, years later, he confesses to me, like, 3 years into the relationship that, like, 3.5 years into the relationship, that he did sleep with one of them. And, he's like, it was only the one time. It was, like, really early in the relationship. He's like, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was like very early in our relationship. And I was just like I was so hurt. Like, I literally sat there crying. I couldn't even say anything because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how I felt in that moment. Like, yeah, I was angry, but I was also like, I already knew this. I'm not fucking stupid. I wasn't that fucking naive. I just felt it in my bones that night, literally, I can remember that feeling. Like, that night, I was like, yo, he's probably fucking one of them. Like, one of them. I don't know who it is, but he's fucking one of them. And I'm like, I just know it. And my stupid ass was just all like, I got back home from my work trip, and immediately, like, went to see him at work on his break. And I was just like, like, I don't want to argue about it, da 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 da. And also, what even added on to it, like, he had his shit at my crib, and, like, because I was gone, he couldn't get into my house, and he would, so, like, the next day, I'm all the way to fucking Chicago, and he texts me, like, yo, I forgot my stuff at your house, like, can you, he's like, can you have your neighbors, like, open the door, and, like, da 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 da, like, have someone open the door for me, and I'm like, I cannot fucking do that. Like, there is no one else that has a key to my place. And also, like, I told you to come home. I told you to come home so that you can get your shit or get whatever you needed before I left. But you wanted to cut your phone off and not text me all night. And now you're fucked. And I'm just kind of like, that's not really my, like, I can't really do anything about it. I'm all the way to fucking Chicago. I'm at work right now. Like, I can't do anything about it. And so I was feeling all bad and guilty. And I'm like, oh my God, this is all my fault. Like, oh my God, I put him in this situation. And, like, my stupid ass I was being manipulated to feel guilty for the fact that he chose to literally storm out my house that night. And he literally chose not to come home. He literally chose not to answer his phone. He literally chose not to communicate with me. He literally chose not to come back home to get his shit, knowing that I wasn't going to be home because I was on a work trip. That had nothing to do with me because I was very clear and we talked about it. We knew what the fuck was up. I still fell for it. And then I come back home and I'm like, oh, like, I missed you, da 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 da. Like, we make up, da 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 da. All this bullshit. And, I feel so disgusted in myself and thinking about how stupid I was in that moment, but I made those choices. Here I am now. So that was one of the first very toxic situations, and, like, I should have recognized it in those moments because it's like, he's obviously not prioritizing me in the way that that makes me feel important and makes me feel loved. So he's obviously not right for me, you know? And I'm more than sure there was more to that argument than just that. But either way, like, to make me feel like I was being ridiculous because I'm asking for your time and that's all I'm asking for, to make me feel the way that he made me feel in those moments in that argument, and then to go fuck someone else, like, that was completely uncalled for, like, because it's crazy to me. I mean, it obviously shows more that, like, I continuously have a very terrible pattern in choosing the wrong person to be serious with and to give my heart to. So, you know, we were arguing like that very early on, and there was even an incident where, so I have a couple different stories that I want to share early on. We were in a situation where I believe, I think we were just hanging out at like one of the mutual friends, the one that I mentioned earlier. So we were hanging out at her house one night, and like a whole bunch of us were just over there drinking. Like, we were gonna drink and then probably go out or something like that, and like we were just hanging out. So while we were there, he had, I think I was just feeling super insecure because he kept emphasizing on how she has feelings for him, and I'm like, well, then why the fuck are we here? Like, I'm just like, yo, like, and also he was not even paying me no mind. Like, he literally just brought me along. Like, these are your friends. Technically, I know most of them. Yes, I know most of them, but they're your friends. You know them, and you're just gonna leave me by myself. Like, that just feels awkward to me. You're inviting me here, but you're not making me feel comfortable. And I just felt really insecure because on top of you not making me feel comfortable because you invited me and you're leaving me by myself, you're also real cozy with the girl that you claim has feelings for you. Anyways, the whole point is, he made me feel very uncomfortable in that situation, and he was just making it seem like I was overreacting and wasn't really helping the situation. And when we went there, we had taken my car, and my house keys and my car keys were all on one, lanyard. And he would not give me the keys. He would not give me anything. And he kicked me out of her house and literally locked the door on me. And I'm literally sitting there crying on the fucking porch. And he's got these girls literally sitting there laughing at me. And I'm like, yo, my stupid ass still accepted that and still stayed with him after that. Like, you know how humiliating that felt? You know how degrading that made me feel and how stupid that made me feel? And he literally just locked the door and would not let me back in. I'm like, bro, let me in the fucking house. Or I'm like, give me my fucking keys so I can leave. And he takes like my house keys off of my car keys and then throws them at me and then locks the door back and wouldn't give me my car keys. So I'm like crying my fucking eyes out. I feel completely humiliated. They're laughing at me and no one stepped in. I mean, I get it, but no one stepped in to even like stop him and be like, yo, like, you're literally being a ridiculous fucking person right now. Like, you don't need to kick her out. Also, it's not even your fucking house to be kicking me the fuck out in. But also, just take her the fuck home. Just take her the fuck home and then you can come back if you want. Like, give me my shit at least so you can go. But nobody was there to, like, that felt so lonely and so isolating because it's like, yeah, I get, like, this is our beef, our drama, but no one cared enough to, like, step in. It's the middle of the fucking night and no one cares to step in and be like, yo, that's unsafe for you to just let your girl leave and be outside in the middle of the fucking night. No one gave a fuck enough to, like, say shit. And, I get it. At the same time, though, like, having experienced the shit that I've experienced, like, if I was in that situation and I was seeing that unfold, and if my guy friends were treating their woman like that, It'd be done for. You would never be my fucking friend again. Like, regardless if it's your girl or not, it's just a simple fact that you would do that to a woman in the middle of the fucking night with no respect, no regard for her or her safety. And like, I can't even be mad at them because it's not their fault. But yeah, I feel like someone should have spoken up. Someone should have stepped up more to help me in that situation, but no one gave a fuck. At least I didn't see anybody come after me. Once I got my house keys, once he threw them out the door, I called one of my close friends and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I hate to bother you, but like, I'm telling her this whole situation. I'm fucking crying my fucking eyes out. I'm fucking like, I'm super fucked up. I'm down bad. And I'm like, I'm walking through the fucking east side in the middle of the night by myself. And I'm like, I know like my house is closer to where I'm at than you, but like I kind of just need a friend right now because I don't feel good. Like I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. I'm literally walking by my fucking self. Like I just got into it with him and like he just embarrassed me in front of all of his friends and like he just literally made me feel like shit. And like that was one of the most crazy situations I had been in at that point. And like I didn't know what to do. And I should have known that in that moment I should have just like obviously my brain is telling me like my subconscious is like, bitch, you need to just leave him the fuck alone, get your shit and be done. And I'm like, when he comes back to the crib and he brings your car, get his shit, get him the fuck out of your life. Like that was so beyond disrespectful. He doesn't even see you. He doesn't even respect you enough as a fucking human being. Outside of the fact that you're his girl. You're his fucking girl. You're his woman. And like I literally let that shit slide. I'm so stupid. And obviously we argued when he came back and none of that is even like, I can't even remember any of the shit that happened after that. But I just know I was scared. I was scared what he would come home and do and like how he would treat me. I was scared that I was even going to get my car back and in what condition, you know? So those were a couple of the early situations that happened that should have just told me like, you need to leave him alone. You need to just let it go. He's not a good person for you, let alone a good person at all. Shit. But yeah, I mean, I still took him back. And I hate that I put my friends in the middle of those things. And like, I hate having to call like my friends to save me. But I feel like if I had actually done that more, if I had been less afraid to call my friends more often. Because after a while, like I started to, like he would isolate me from my friends because he would make me feel like, oh yeah, like, oh, your friend Izzy, he just wants to fuck you. And that's probably why like, he probably just wants to fuck you. That's why he like doesn't talk to you as much anymore. And da 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 da. And I'm like, no, it's just because like I'm prioritizing our relationship and like, you know, like he understands that there's certain boundaries he can't cross. He's also a man and like I'm in a relationship with you. And he would like say things like how he felt like Chris and Izzy just liked me and how he felt like they don't want to be my friend because they just wanted to fuck me, and now that I have a boyfriend they definitely don't give a fuck to talk to me. And he would like plant these things in my mind, and like I always think about like if I would have just, and also like at this time like I had just, my best friend and I, like we literally had the biggest falling out and like we never recovered from that. And I'm like going through the loss of like my friendship my lifelong friend, and also like going through all of this, and I didn't know who to turn to, and like I can't call my friends because I didn't feel like it was really my place to talk to another man about this. And like I just didn't feel right about talking to another man about it. And he would just like convince me like they're not really your friends, like they just want to fuck you and da 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 da. So, I feel like sometimes if I had leaned on my friends a little bit more for some additional moral support, like maybe I wouldn't have spiraled down this whole relationship for as long as I did, and maybe I would have saved myself sooner because I knew I had other people behind me that were supporting me, that loved me, that cared about me. And it was just really hard. It was just super hard because I didn't know who to turn to for any of it. And like my other lifelong best friend, like she always has things of her own going on, and like I would talk to her about these things occasionally, which I will get into more of. So I think that's, you know, it's important when you're in domestic violence situations that you try to maintain your friendships and notice the signs in which they try to isolate you from your friends, because that's the first thing that they're going to try and do is isolate. Well, that's one of the first things that they're going to try and do is isolate you from all your friends and your family and make you believe like that you don't have anyone else but them, and like that people don't genuinely want to have a relationship with you. You have to start noticing those telltale signs. And even if I had like female friends, because I still had my other lifelong best friend, and like that's a whole situation in its own, in which I will get into in the next episode. But start to notice those signs in which they aren't prioritizing you in the way that like, this doesn't even have to relate back to a domestic violence situation, but in any relationship or when you're dating someone, like if you don't feel like you're being prioritized or loved in the way that you feel like you deserve, and you guys can't come to an understanding, and he's not being understanding in the way that, or they're not being understanding in the way that you feel, then that's kind of like a red flag in which you need to just kind of walk away from, because they clearly don't respect you enough to have an understanding with you, to have relation with you, because a relationship comes with understanding and compromise of your partner. So at least that's how I feel. That's how I view relationships, at least. And noticing the signs in which like they're making you feel isolated from things, and like how they may try to draw all the attention on them, like when you're in a group setting, like that is also a telltale sign of narcissism. A narcissist does that. But making you feel isolated is one big thing, and that's the one thing that they can learn to control. Like, or the way that he would try to make it seem like, I understand like everyone has a right to what they want to do with their time, and you don't have to, like, your partner isn't obligated to your free time. Abso-fucking-lutely, I believe that. But when they start to make you feel like you're literally not a priority when they have time, or when they start to make you feel like you're an inconvenience to their free time, then those are things you should start to think about. Those are characteristics that you need to keep in mind. But I'm going to save the rest for part 2. So you guys are going to be getting some bonus episodes this month. I'm going to try and drop some episodes every single Friday. But I'm going to see you guys in part 2 of this episode. I'm going to share more experiences. So don't forget to listen to Suffering of Silence on all streaming platforms. Make sure you guys leave some ratings and reviews. Don't forget as well to follow along on TikTok and Instagram at Suffering of Silence Pod. I really want to thank all of my subscribers as always, and I'm gonna catch you guys on part 2 of this episode. I really hope that you guys also make sure you use those resources that I'm linking in the show notes. I will also make sure to add these to my link tree so that everyone has resources to, to help them in domestic violence situations. I hope you guys stay safe out there. I hope you guys start to really notice some of these signs in your relationships. And it doesn't mean that seeing these signs will always just equate to a domestic violence situation, but just be very cautious about these things because there's patterns and there's ways that you can catch these things sooner than later. And I would never wish upon anyone to experience the things that I've experienced. So I'll see you guys in part 2. Thanks again, subscribers.